You ever have one of those moments where you're standing there watching someone completely lose their mind and you think, how did we even get here? That was me sitting on my grandfather's old porch watching the HOA president of Maple Creek Estates scream at a group of cops while they were handcuffing her for tearing down my shed. But to really understand how we got to that beautiful, chaotic moment, I've got to take you back a few months. 6 months earlier, I was burned out. 8 years in a tech firm in San Diego, emails, deadlines, noise, traffic. It had all started to blur together. Then one morning I got a call that stopped everything. My grandfather, the one who practically raised me, had passed away. He left me his cabin up in the mountains, the same one I'd spent summers at as a kid chasing fireflies and listening to him talk about how peace was something you built with your own 2 hands. That cabin was old school hand-built in the early 80s. Sturdy pine walls, stone chimney, the smell of wood smoke baked into the air. When I found out he'd left it to me, it felt like the universe was telling me to stop, breathe, and maybe remember who I used to be before life got so loud. So I took a sabbatical from work, packed up, and drove out there to spend the summer fixing it up, clearing my head, maybe figuring out what to do next. But I didn't realize how much the place had changed. Maple Creek wasn't the sleepy mountain community I remembered. Somewhere in the last few years, a developer had moved in, chopped down half the forest, and built a bunch of luxury mountain homes. And of course, with that came the one thing that ruins peace faster than a wildfire, a homeowners association. Now, my grandpa's cabin wasn't part of it. He had grandfather rights, meaning his property existed long before the HOA did, and their rules didn't apply. But apparently that didn't sit well with a woman named Sir Paula Granger, the self-declared queen of Maple Creek Estates. She'd been running that HOA like her own little dictatorship. New mailbox, she'd approve the color. New plants, she'd measure the height. And my cabin, sitting right near the entrance with its old wood siding and rusty pickup truck out front, drove her absolutely insane. 3 days before I was supposed to move in, my estate attorney called. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "The HOA sent a certified letter claiming your property's in violation of community standards. It listed things like unpermitted structures, non-compliant vehicles, and unmaintained landscaping." I remember laughing because my grandpa's property wasn't even in their community. But that laugh turned into something sharper when I realized what was happening. Paula wasn't confused, she was trying to scare me off. Now here's where my tech background came in handy. I'm a data guy. I like facts, records, timelines. So I spent the next 2 days digging through county archives and HOA filings. And sure enough, my grandpa's cabin was not under HOA jurisdiction. I also found a bunch of online posts from people complaining about Paula folks who said she'd harass them into selling their homes or remodeling to fit her vision. Classic power trip. So I decided to be patient. Instead of storming in guns blazing, I'd let her show her hand and document every single move. The first time I met her, she pulled into my driveway in a spotless white SUV, wearing heels on a gravel road like she thought she was on some reality show. "Good morning," she sang, flashing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Paula Granger, president of the Maple Creek Estates HOA. I just wanted to welcome you and discuss a few issues regarding your property." I smiled back, calm as ever. "Well, I appreciate the welcome, Paula, but this cabin's been here since before Maple Creek was even a thing. So what kind of issues are we talking about?" She blinked clearly, not used to someone pushing back. "Well," she said, voice tightening, "your property doesn't meet community standards. The storage shed, for instance, appears to be an unapproved structure, and that old truck is bringing down property values. We'd like to see it removed." I nodded like I was thinking it over. "That's interesting," I said. "Can you show me the specific law that gives your HOA authority over a property that isn't part of your HOA?" Her smile cracked just a little. "The details are complicated," she muttered. "But trust me, we have jurisdiction." "Sure," I said, pulling out my phone. "Could you cite the statute number? I just want to make sure I've got it right." She froze, eyes narrowing. Listen, she said, voice sharp. Now I'm trying to handle this amicably. But if you're going to be difficult, there are other ways we can handle non-compliance. And then she said it quiet, but with that little venomous edge that people like her can't hide. It would be a shame if something happened to the place before you got settled in. That's when I knew exactly what kind of person I was dealing with. The next morning, I found footprints around the flower beds. The padlock on the shed was gone and someone had been inside moving things around. I checked my grandfather's old security recorder. It had been wiped clean. The hard drive replaced with a blank one. So I upgraded everything: hidden cameras, cloud backups, motion alerts. And 2 nights later, those cameras caught exactly what I expected: Paula herself sneaking around my shed with a flashlight and a bolt cutter. She broke in, rifled through boxes, and even tried to loosen bolts on the cabin's foundation with a drill. That's when I called the cops. They missed her by minutes, but I had the footage. Over the next week, I went on the offensive. I built a website documenting her harassment letters, trespassing, stolen property, all of it. Other victims came forward. A local journalist picked up the story, and before long, the HOA tyrant of Maple Creek was trending online. 2 days after the article dropped, Paula showed up again, this time in broad daylight, holding a thick folder and flanked by 2 men. "You've been served," she said, shoving papers into my hand. "You are hereby ordered to vacate the premises due to safety violations." One of the men claimed to be a county inspector, but the logo on his jacket was from a private firm. "Mind telling me when this inspection happened?" I asked. "Because my security footage doesn't show anyone authorized being on my property." She snapped. "We don't need your permission to protect our community." I hit record on my phone. "Funny thing," I said, "because the sheriff's office, the DA, and that same reporter already have footage of you trespassing and tampering with my foundation. You sure you want to keep doubling down?" Her fake inspector turned pale and left. Paula just glared at me, voice trembling. "You'll regret this. We have power you can't fight." "Oh, I think you'll find that power's pretty limited," I said quietly. A week later, she came back with backup 6 HOA volunteers carrying tools. They started tearing down my shed, claiming it was an emergency abatement. I called 911 again. This time, the sheriff's deputies arrived in under 5 minutes. They found Paula mid-rant, waving fake injunction papers in the air, screaming about community standards. The lead officer listened for a minute, looked at the papers, and said, "Ma'am, these aren't court documents. You're trespassing." And right there in front of everyone, she lost it. "This is my neighborhood. I've maintained it for 15 years. He's ruining everything I've built." The officer just shook his head and said, "Ma'am, you're under arrest." Watching her get cuffed in my driveway on the same ground she said I didn't belong on was one of those full circle moments that just feel right. She ended up facing felony charges, trespassing, destruction of property, filing false legal documents. The HOA got fined, the board replaced, and Maple Creek finally became a decent place to live again. These days, I still live in that cabin, work remotely, drink coffee on the porch where she once stood barking orders like a general. And every time I look out at those pine trees, I remember what Grandpa Joe used to say. Peace isn't something you find, it's something you defend. So if you ever end up dealing with a bully like Paula, remember this document. Everything know your rights, stay patient, and let them hang themselves with their own arrogance. Now I gotta ask you, if this were your property, would you have fought back like I did or just packed up and left? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I've got a feeling this one's gonna stir up some opinions.